Well, I'm 40. I'm on top of that hill, right? No? I'm just hoping it's not like a snow-covered hill in Michigan where it takes a while to get to the top, and once you get on the slide, it's... I'm excited to be here today. I missed you all last week. I was performing a wedding in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, last Sunday. So I'm excited to be here today, but unfortunately I'm not going to be here next Sunday either. And I feel bad. I've been gone too much, I know. But next Sunday I will be in Scotland. Mike and Kathy Human, somehow, as I said, all things with God are possible. Got me a tea time at St. Andrews. So for my 40-year-old bucket list trip, I'll be in Scotland. The thing about golfing in Scotland, though we're playing 5 rounds of golf in 5 days, is that there aren't golf carts. So you gotta walk 5 rounds of golf in 5 days. So I've been walking, trying to get prepared to walk and carry my golf bag for 5 days. And so, as you know, no shocker here, it's been really hot. Right? So, or am I the only one? Expecting an amen or something there. So I've been going to Grapevine Mills, and I'd walk around Grapevine Mills. And I would just walk in one, it's just easier to walk in the air conditioning, and there's things to look at. And so I would walk, and one day I decided to walk the other way. And so I started walking the other way, and if you walk the other way, you notice that there's stores you've never seen before. And there's like little vendors that you've never seen before. And it's like when you walk the other way, it's like walking an entirely different mall. And you just notice things, and you see things differently. As I get back from my sabbatical, I've been back now a month, I start to think that this was the great gift of a sabbatical, to look at things differently. I had the opportunity to visit many churches, and I got to look at things in those churches. One of the greatest things was to just go there and be there the first time, and to see what it's like to walk into a church for a worship service for the first time, not knowing anyone, and to see what their hospitality is like, and to see the good things that they do that we can learn from. And then to look at some of the other things and say, wow, we do that same thing. Like pass around the 3-ring binder, are they still going around? Yeah. I was at a church and they passed around the 3-ring binder, and it came to me and I knew what to do with it because we do that every Sunday. But I thought to myself, well, if I didn't go to church every Sunday, I'd look at this 3-ring binder and say, what is this? I'm not sure I want to, there was nothing to say, we're going to pass this around and get your contact information if you're willing to share it with us. And so I thought, well, maybe we could do a better job of explaining what we're doing. Or maybe we could at least wait until after the sermon to see if someone actually wants to write their name down. Right? So just to see the way churches do things. But then also to talk to these pastors and to figure out the why behind the what. Try and figure out why they do what they do. I was talking to a pastor who started a church with about 15 people 25 years ago. And I said, so what's your philosophy in church? He said, my philosophy is we are a church for kids who bring their parents. A church for kids who bring their parents. I thought, that's pretty neat. It's worked pretty well. Because they're the biggest Lutheran church in America, and they have 12,000 people every Sunday. And I thought, well, I don't think I've ever seen us as a church for kids who bring their parents. More like we're a church for parents who bring their kids. But now that Gary's here, I'm excited about some of the things we're doing, because we're doing children's ministry and youth ministry in ways that we've never done it before. I don't know if you had the opportunity to talk to one of our confirmation students, but confirmation is a lot different this year. And being a part of it, I can tell it's a lot better. It's a lot better than it was last year. And I say that being the guy who put together confirmation last year. So it's better than it was, and I'm the guy who did it last year, so I'm not making fun of anyone but myself. And so I'm just excited to say that, wow, we can be a church for kids who bring their parents, as well as a church for parents who bring their kids, or as well as a church for parents whose kids are grown. We can be a church for everybody. And as I went and visited these larger congregations, some of the things I asked them were about stewardship. Stewardship. It's that every year we do the stewardship drive, and we ask you to pledge, right? Everybody, we're doing it now as we're doing a capital campaign now that began last week, and we're going to go through that process together. But then in the spring, we've been doing it in the spring now, the stewardship drive, where we do a 4-week campaign and then ask you to pledge. And I said, so what are your guys' strategy behind this? How do you do it? And they all looked at me and said, yeah, we stopped doing that a long time ago. Like, what? How do you stop stewardship campaigns? That's like what it means, to put the budget together and all that stuff. They go, yeah, we just stopped doing that. And so I came back and I said, well, I don't know if we need to do those anymore. Would anybody miss them? Well, let the record show nobody raised their hand. So there's different ways of doing church. And it was extremely helpful for me to go out and to see that, to see it from a different perspective, and to see how other people are doing it. I think it's important that we figure out in life ways to look at things differently. And that's what our gospel text is today. Jesus tells the story of the rich man and Lazarus. Now, this is a story. We don't know that there ever was actually a rich man and Lazarus. This isn't a real story. It's just a story so that Jesus can help his listeners look at the world differently, look at their lives differently, look at it from God's perspective. So there's this guy. His name is Lazarus. And he's homeless, and he's a beggar. And he sleeps by this gate of this rich man, and all he wants is the rich man's crumbs. But the rich man just ignores him. Every time the rich man sees him, he looks the other way. He just ignores him, and he goes about his comfortable life, having enough. But in the end, it is Lazarus who gets the reward. The tables are turned, and it is Lazarus who looks down on the rich man who is suffering for eternity. Now, this is a difficult reading, no doubt. And I don't think we should take it literally. However, I think we should take it from the perspective that Jesus is trying to help us see life the way God sees it. That Jesus is trying to motivate us to live as God would have us live. To see the world through the eyes of heaven. I read this, and I think, well, yeah, that's what it is. And then I think, but do we really want to understand how God sees the world? Do we really want to see it the way God sees it? Because if we ever did, it would mean we would have to change, right? It would mean we'd have to change. And well, I missed the Bible study, George. I heard you made a great joke about change Tuesday night. How many Lutherans does it take to change a light bulb?
What? Change?
What? Change? Change is difficult. It's not something we look forward to, nor is it something we invite into our lives. But the truth is, as individuals, if we aren't constantly trying to see the world in a different way, we will stop growing. And as a church, as the church, if we don't try to see the world through God's eyes, we will stop growing. Now, the question I have is, well, how do I see the world through God's eyes? How can we learn to see the world through God's eyes? And I hope you ask that question, too, for yourselves. And this is where I have my shameless plug for Bible study, every Tuesday night at 7, where George tells jokes. We also are going to start a Wednesday night class here in October, trying to understand Lutheran theology. We've done classes in the past about who Luther was and Luther's story, and now we're going to start doing Lutheran theology for adults. And then, for those of you who can't make either, there's a shameless plug, looking at starting a Bible study podcast, so that if you can't join us, you can download our Bible study and see it. So those are simple ways that we can learn to see the world through God's eyes, but I would say the more important question is, am I seeing the world the way that God sees it now? Do I do that now? Can I see what God sees in the way that God sees? And to which I would ask, I'm Italian, so you answer a question with a question. Even I'm answering my own question with another question. Sorry for making this difficult to follow along. But I would say, what is it that you pursue? What is it that you pursue in life? What are you working towards? What are your goals? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? 1 Timothy 6:11 from today. Timothy writes, pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. You want to see the world the way God sees it? Pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. And if I'm honest with myself and I ask, do I pursue those things? Do I pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness? I would say, sometimes, but most of the time, no. Most of the time, no. And if I'd ask that about us as a church, collectively, do we pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness? Sometimes, I'd say as a group, as a collective, we're probably better than any of us individually, but not always. But not always. The reality is, if we ever see the world through God's eyes, if we ever truly get a glimpse of what God would have us do and who God would have us be, that would change what we pursue, which would change what we do, which would change our lives and our community. Change. 40 years. 40 years. Been here 9 years and 3 months. The very beginning. July 2010. About a quarter of my life. And I look back, I call it a decade, and I think of all the change we've already been through. I look out and I see things that are answers to prayers. This building itself, this land that we're on, these chairs we're sitting in. These chairs didn't show up on the first day. About 4 years in, we decided folding chairs weren't good enough anymore, which is good because I broke one shortly thereafter. I think of all the people. I think of the people who were here at the beginning, people who have moved to different states, people who have claimed their heavenly promise. And I think of all the new people, all the people who have joined us over the last 9.5 years. Think about all the change we've had at staff. We've had a lot of staff members. We started with one, then we added a couple and they retired, and then we added a couple and they moved, and a lot of changes. And think about the changes in my life. Think about the changes in our lives. Looking at people I've known for 10 years now. People who are now retired, people who are now grandparents, people who are now parents. So much change. The only thing constant in life is change. We have changed from the very first day, and we will change every single day going forward. But here is God's promise to us, as individuals and as the church. No matter what changes come, whether they good or bad, whether they difficult or easy, whether they God's will or not, God will be with us. Because the only thing more constant in this life than change is the presence of God. Always with us. Wherever we are, wherever we go, God is there. Amen.